Europe's leading car magazine, Auto, Motor and Sport, which produces more than 250 thoroughly researched tests, comparisons and road reports annually, has taken a pioneering step. It's the first car magazine to conduct and publish a comprehensive crash test with thousands of test measurements on both cars and occupants. Passive safety is something that manufacturers use as a selling point for cars in the executive category. Auto, Motor and Sport has tested them. The crash candidates are the Nissan Maxima, BMW 520i, Opel Omega, Mercedes 200, Renault 25, Fiat Chroma, Honda Legend, Volvo 740, and the most recent entrant in the executive class, the Audi 100. The idea of the test was to simulate the worst conceivable accident, a frontal collision under conditions as realistic as possible. Most accidents of this kind involve an offset collision rather than a direct head-on impact, so Auto, Motor and Sport decided to use an overlap of 50%. In other words, only the front left corner of the test car hits the concrete block at the prescribed approach speed of 55 km an hour, which means that only part of the front structure of the car is available to dissipate the impact energy. The test is set up so that the car approaches under its own power, which is a new technique not previously used in any large-scale testing. The test car is guided automatically, which is also new. A wire set into the ground and a bumper-mounted aerial make sure that the vehicle follows the correct path, aided by a servo motor which corrects the steering with millimeter accuracy. The front seat passengers are two dummies. They are fitted with accelerometers and transducers in the head, chest, pelvis and thighs to register the forces on the occupants. The resulting data, which are used to calculate the risk of injury, are recorded in a well-protected box carried at the back of the car. The crash itself only takes a few milliseconds, too fast for the human eye, but not beyond the abilities of the 5 high-speed cameras grouped around the point of impact to record every detail at up to 2,000 frames a second. The first test candidate is the Honda Legend, which has been superseded by a new model. The Honda hits the barrier at exactly 54.8 km an hour. Because the engine compartment is packed full of machinery, the front of the car is not able to absorb much of the energy, so the front of the passenger cell is severely deformed on the left-hand side. The driver's head is forced to the right, suffering high peak acceleration levels. The chance of survival is slight. The driver's door is jammed, so it can only be forced open with a crowbar. The driver's feet are firmly trapped. The Mercedes 200 provides the perfect example of a rigid passenger cell. The steering wheel and pedals are only pushed back slightly. In spite of a heavy head impact with the steering wheel, the driver's injury risk is low. The passenger cell of the Nissan is by no means rigid, but it still allows enough survival space. The heavy impact with the steering wheel may inflict severe internal injuries on the driver. The passenger cell of the Volvo 740 is only slightly deformed. What is not so good is the hard projecting steering wheel that comes into violent contact with the head of the dummy. In the case of the Opel Omega, the passenger cell is not strong enough to withstand the collision forces, and the survival area is reduced on impact. The driver's forehead and face hit the steering wheel so hard that very severe head injuries are probable. The deformation sustained by the passenger cell of the Fiat Croma is even worse. The dummy's head and body are subjected to very high stresses. The chances of survival are slight. The driver is trapped in the car, and the door can only be opened with rescue equipment. In the BMW 520i, the risk of injury is low. Survival space is practically unaffected, although deformation does extend into the passenger cell. Severe deformation occurs in the passenger cell of the Renault 25. The steering wheel jerks upward, hitting the driver's head and neck in a manner likely to produce serious injuries. In the new Audi 100, which has the Procon 10 safety system as standard, the steering wheel is pulled away from the driver on impact. The risk of injury is slight, and there's practically no encroachment on the survival space in the passenger compartment. 3 of the new candidates, the new Audi 100, the BMW 520i and the Mercedes 200, exhibited impressive passive safety in this test. In all the other cars, the impact could have caused severe and in some cases possibly fatal injuries. One thing emerged clearly. In every single case, the driver's head hit the steering wheel. This impact would have been prevented by an airbag, which is an additional but not insignificant finding resulting from the Auto, Motor und Sport crash tests. Now, it's up to all car manufacturers to review their thinking on passive safety and in some cases to redefine their standards. One thing is certain. Auto, Motor und Sport has taken a pioneering step with this test, which can only be a good thing for our safety.